We can go through what are the different layers of Malphizian body. First of all, you should take a glomerulus, and this glomerulus having blood vessels, and these blood vessels are made up of endothelial cells. And next one is Bowman capsule, and this Bowman capsule made up of epithelial cells. In between the epithelial cells and endothelial cells, there is a space is present, and this space is made up of basement membrane, so that if the filtrate is enters into the glomerulus, it must be passed through these three layers: endothelial layer, basement layer, and epithelial layer. Overall, these three layer thickness is about less than 1 millimeter. Is less than 1 millimeter, and that's why thickness of this layer is very less, so that filtration is very effective. For example, if you are if you are filter the tea or coffee through 10 foldings of cotton cloth, the filtration is very slow. Instead of 10 foldings, if you made into 2 or 3, the filtration is very effective because it is depending upon the thickness. Similar manner, when thickness of nephron is very less, the filtration is very effective. Next one is, and this Bowman capsule made up of some specialized cells, those are known as podocytes, and these podocytes helpful for formation of slit pores, and these are all podocytes. All these podocytes, they are intercreate with each other to produce a small pores, and those pores are known as slit pores, and this slit pores also helps to filter the glomerulus. Filtration of glomerulus. Next one is, and this glomerulus, it shows more folding, it having very highly coiled. When it become very highly coiled, it can increases surface area, and more surface area leads to more reabsorption. That's why for reabsorption or any kind of filtration, and it depends upon different factors, and those are thin of wall, slit pores, and highly coiled blood vessels. Next, another concept, slit pores, and this slit pore size about less than 80 angstrom. When it is less than 80 angstrom, which can filter all the plasma present in the blood except proteins and blood cells, because proteins and blood cells size is more than 80 angstrom, they won't enter into the slit pores. And because of that reason, in case of glomerulus filtration, when there is a nephric filtrate is formed, that nephric filtrate does not containing any proteins as well as blood cells. Once filtrate is formed, that composition is similar to blood plasma, because and this glomerulus filtrate does not containing any kind of proteins as well as blood cells, and this is the glomerular filtrations. And next one is pressure operating, and this is also very key concept for the glomerular filtration. One is glomerulus hydrostatic pressure, second pressure is glomerulus osmotic pressure, third one is capsular hydrostatic pressure. Now we can discuss glomerulus hydrostatic pressure. This is represented as GHP. What it means? and this is the structure of Malpighian body. Already we know that these are afferent arterioles. These are very broad, and that is leads into small capillaries, that is known as glomerulus. When more blood is enters into the afferent arterioles, suddenly it can flow into the small capillaries. It can increases the pressure, that is known as glomerulus hydrostatic pressure, and it is the same process. If more substance is enters into small lumen, automatically it can create certain pressure that is going to be takes place in the glomerulus. That's why it is known as glomerulus hydrostatic pressure. It is about 75 millimeter mercury. It is some textbook. In net sources he has given 55 millimeter mercury. It can varies from one textbook to another textbook. Later should take an average reading. And this glomerulus hydrostatic pressure, it is example for positive pressure. Next one is second, glomerulus osmotic pressure. And what it means here, in case of glomerulus, it has some proteins. It has some proteins, and those proteins are nothing but blood proteins. Are you heard about albumin, fibrinogen, globulin? All these proteins, they can resist certain pressure against the blood. It call it as glomerulus osmotic pressure. It is also known as blood colloidal osmotic pressure, represented as BCOP. And already I told you people, this proteins is present in the glomerulus. When new blood enters into the glomerulus, it can hit the proteins. That time it can create the pressure that is known as glomerulus osmotic pressure. And this pressure is about 30 millimeter Hg. It is also same in net sources, and it can create negative pressure because this pressure is registered to the blood. Third one is capsular hydrostatic pressure. What it means, and this is the Bowman capsule, and this Bowman capsule has pre-existing filtrate, and this pre-existing filtrate is also resist certain kind of pressure, and that is known as capsular hydrostatic pressure. It is represented as CHP, and this is about 20 millimeter Hg because it can resistance to new filtrate, and it is responsible for negative pressure. And this is total three kind of pressure is also actively involving in filtration of glomerulus. And what is the net filtration pressure means? There is a one rule. What is that? That is net filtration pressure is equal to glomerular hydrostatic pressure minus into bracket glomerular osmotic pressure plus capsular hydrostatic pressure. As per this calculation, and glomerulus hydrostatic pressure is 75, and GOP is about 30, CHP is about 20, and an average the net pressure of this this measurement is about only 25 mmHgs. If you take this reading, and net filtration pressure is about 10 mmHg, and an average, and how much of net pressure is going to be created in the glomerulus, it is about 10 to 25 mmHg, and this 10 to 25 mm of Hg is responsible for ultrafiltration in the kidney. And all these factors, thickness of arteries and Bowman capsule is less than 1 millimeter Hg or 1 millimeter, and these are the three important pressure totally contributing for filtration of the blood or formation of urine. Now we can go through one by one. What is the composition of glomerular filtration? And another term he has given, that is GFR. And what is GFR means? It is glomerulus filtration rate. What it means? And it says that amount of filtrate is formed by the kidney per minute, that is known as glomerulus filtration rate. Per minute, how much of filtration is formed from the kidney, that is known as GFR. In case of healthy person, glomerulus filtration rate is about 125 ml per minute. If we calculate per day, it is about 180 liters of nephric filtrate is formed in healthy person. Per day, it is about 180 liters of filtrate is formed from the both the kidneys. It is a use weight. It is a V's calculation, and it is difficult to imagine how small only 150 grams of kidneys are doing this kind of things. And this nephric filtrate consists of both useful substance as well as waste substance. What are the useful substance means? Water, glucose, fatty acids, vitamins, ions like potassium, sodium, bicarbonate, hydrogen, all kind of things and necessary substance are present in the nephric filtrate. It is also consist of some of the waste. Those are nitrogenous waste. Those are urea, uric acid, ammonia, creatinine, ypiric acid. All these are unwanted substance. But in glomerulus filtration, which can filter both useful substance as well as waste substance, that's why glomerular filtration is also known as ultrafiltration. It is also known as non-selective filtration and is also named as primary urine. You must remember all these terms. They may be asked for competitive examinations. Glomerular filtration rate, non-selective filtration, primary urine, ultrafiltration, all are give same meaning. Now we should go for second concept, that is tubular reabsorption. Here what we mean by tubular reabsorption means, and this process takes place between two parts. One is nephric filtrate and another one is peritubular capillaries. For example, this is nephron. This is known as renal tubule, and this renal tubule having substance, this is known as nephric filtrate. Parallel to this, there is a presence of another tubules. Those are known as peritubular capillaries, isn't it? And this filtrate present in the renal tube, it is enters into peritubular capillaries, and this process is known as reabsorption. The movement of molecules from filtrate to peritubular capillaries, that is reabsorption. You can go through this diagram. Some of arrow marks he has given from renal tube to outward direction, means it is moving towards peritubular capillaries, and these are known as reabsorption. And this reabsorption takes place by active transport as well as passive transport. What are the substances are actively transported by using energy molecule, that is ATP means? Those are glucose, amino acids, ions like sodium, fatty acids, vitamins, hormones. All these substances get reabsorbed by the process of active, and some of the substances also get reabsorbed by the process of passive without any utilization of energies. For example, you should take nitrogen waste, ammonia, urea, uric acid. These substances they can reabsorbed by the diffusion, and water is also get reabsorbed by the process of osmosis. And this is about tubular reabsorption. Now we should go for selective reabsorption in various parts. And for this, first one is PCT, that is proximal convoluted tubule. It is the main important site for maximum reabsorption of substance, and that is absorption is takes place by the passive or active. Most of all, as per the other sources, what he has given, a 92 95 percentage of reabsorption is completed in PCT. That means major reabsorption is takes place in very highly coiled tube, that is proximal convoluted tubule. In this part, 100 percentage of glucose and amino acids are get reabsorbed, and 60 to 70 percentage of water is also get reabsorbed in the PCT, and 60 to 70 percentage of sodium ions and chloride is also get reabsorbed by the process of passive, and 50 percentage of urea and 99 percentage of uric acid. All these substances get reabsorbed in first part of the nephron, that is PCTs. Just look at this diagram. Whatever the arrow marks they have given with orange color, though can represents active reabsorption. Sodium chloride and nutrients, sodium chloride, bicarbonates, all these reabsorbed by the process of what? Active. And remaining with are in ash color, that indicates passive reabsorption, like bicarbonates, water, potassium ions. They also get reabsorbed in PCT by the process of passive reabsorption or passive transport. And another very important point, in case of PCT, there is no reabsorption of creatinine and sulfate, and this is very important concept for the exam. Creatinine and sulfate, most of these substances cannot reabsorb in PCT. Next one is reabsorption in Hensloob. And Hensloob is a hairpin like structure or U-shaped structure, and it helps in regulation of urine, whether it become concentrated or diluted. How it means? And this is the U-shaped structure. This is known as Hensloob. The Hensloob which is moving downward, that is known as descending Hensloob. That is descending Hensloob. And this descending Hensloob is permeable for water and impermeable for electrolytes. That means this descending Hensloob, which can pass only water from nephric filtrate to interstitium, but it won't pass any kind of electrolytes. This is the one property. That's why when filtrate is coming towards descending Hensloob, it can loses more water. The filtrate become more concentrated in DCT. This is the most very important point. That is, the concentrated of filtration is takes place in the descending Hensloob due to loss of water. And how much of water get lost? It is about 15 percentage. And next one is, and this descending Hensloob run towards cortex region, and this is known as ascending Hensloob. And this ascending Hensloob has their own unique property. And this ascending Hensloob, which is permeable for water, so it is permeable for electrolytes and impermeable for water. It is impermeable for water and permeable for electrolytes, and this makes to formation of dilute urine in case of ascending Hensloob. And this urine is also get reabsorbed in descending Hensloob by the process of active reabsorption, and sodium chloride, sodium ions and chloride ions is also get reabsorbed by the process of active. And this is the main important concept of Hensloob. And here in Hensloob you should be note down, and when filtrate is passed to the descending Hensloob, the filtrate become very concentrated due to loss of water. And when filtrate is passed into the ascending Hensloob, the filtrate become dilute because loss of electrolyte. It is the one unique property of human beings to produce concentrated or dilute urine. And next one is, and third step of urine formation is tubular secretion. What it means? Here, when substance which can move from peritubular capillaries to filtrate, that is known as secretion. For example, you should take this one. This is about renal tube. This is peritubular capillaries. Peritubular capillaries. And this is peritubular capillaries, and this is about this is renal tube, and this filtrate now it is moving towards peritubular capillaries, and that is called as reabsorption. That is about what? Reabsorption. What is secretion? From this peritubular capillaries, if the substance is moving to renal tube, that is secretion. Now we can take, these are all secretions, and this is the peritubular capillaries. From these capillaries, the filtrate is moving towards renal tube, and that's why, and secretion is always moves, and secretion represents when substances are moving from peritubular capillaries to renal tube or filtrate, that is known as secretion. And this secretion is mainly takes place in distal convoluted tubule by the process of active or passive transport. And what are the substances are not needed for the cells or the human beings? These are secreted into the filtrate. For example, excess of hydrogen ions, potassiums, nitrogen waste like ammonia, creatinine, uric acid, toxic substance, drugs. These are all substances are not required by the human beings, are not required at all. That's why these are excess of quantity of waste material and hydrogen, potassium, and it can send it to the filtrate. And this is kind of secretion in renal tube. Next one is, in an average per day, our body produces, our kidney produces 180 liters of nephric filtrate. Out of 180 liters, and we can excrete only 1.5 liters of urine. But our body produces 180 liters of nephric filtrate. Out of that, we can excrete only 1.5 liter, because all kind of these three stages, that is about tubular secretions.